You may be seated. Why did I grab you? Because you were the youngest guy on stage this morning, and you are doing what God called you to do. And I think sometimes we need to honor that. This was Jackson's first time on the drums. Would you guys give him and God a clap offering this morning? Thank you. Love you, man. If you didn't have a smile on your face during that, it was, I did. And you know what? Yeah, it was awesome. I think Brennan's working himself out of a job. After I'm done here today, I might too. Told you I'm going to get Becky up here, so be prepared. I'm working on it, working on my exit. Everybody doing good? New Year's 2020 treating everybody good? As I was considering what to preach this morning, I'll just be quite honest with you. I'm going to use the text that was impressed on my heart 3-4 weeks ago, and I actually had the message pretty much planned for the Sunday on the 12th. And at 1:30 in the morning, we get a phone call that said, if you want to talk to Celesta, which is my mother-in-law, if you want to talk to her, then you better get to the hospital really fast. I had my alarm set for 3 a.m. that morning to come in and write this message. And so Becky and I, of course, that kind of phone call will really put things into perspective. And I told Beck, I said, well, I got to be at the church by I like to be here by 3:30 Sunday mornings. And I said, I tell you what, I'm going to jump in the shower, and I'll just shower before I go. That way you can stay at the hospital, and I can just go to church. Pretty selfish of me, and I did that through the glare of her eyes on me, and she was like, are you kidding me right now? Well, I had been so used to these phone calls, and of course, we'll go up there and we'll be there an hour and then we'll be home, or I'll be free to go. Well, this time, it didn't happen that way. And when I got there, I saw that I wasn't going to be able to leave right away. And so I am so grateful for the community that we have here. I text Kurt and Phil at 5:30 a.m. and I said, listen, Brennan's not there, Eli's not there. Who else could have done it? I'm not sure. I mean, you guys are all capable of running a service here. I know you are. Tim's going, yeah, why didn't you call me? You know what? I will next time. Love it. I caught that. Next time it'll be Tim. I text Phil and Kurt both at the same time. I said, listen, this is what's going on. My mother-in-law is not going to make it, and I'm not going to leave Becky up there by herself, she wasn't by herself by that time. Most of the family was there. And Kurt can tell you later how he read the message. He woke up at, I don't know, can I say it? Yeah, all right, I'm going to say it anyway. He wakes up at, 6:15, and looks, and he goes, oh, it's just a text from Jimmy. And rolls back over and slept till what, 8:30? Not quite, all right. And then when he looked at the text, he's like, what? I'm in charge of the service this morning. So he is wishing that he would have gotten up a little bit early. But I had asked somebody, was it a good service? And they said, no. They said it was great. And to God be the glory. But that's the power of community. That's the power of good friends and back each other up. Thank you, Kurt. And Phil's not here, but I thank you guys for being willing to show us grace in that time. And then the following Sunday, of course, Eli had an awesome message last Sunday. But the text that I was going to use on that very Sunday was 2 Timothy chapter 4, where it says this. And Haley, if you want to put it up there. It says, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. And I got to whisper that verse to my mother-in-law as I kissed her goodbye. I said, you'll never know. Today is what I was going to preach on, was this. And I had no idea that she would be dying. We've been dealing with this congestive heart failure pretty much since April. We knew that she was a type 2 diabetic for probably 15 years. And in April, she started having some complications of just shortness of breath and a little bit of swelling. And so they go in and check. And sure enough, they say, It's a good possibility she could have had 2 to 3 different heart attacks throughout the years that she never even found out, which damaged her heart to the point that it was at 20% or less working. We didn't know that, but I got to say this particular verse to her as she was passing away. In fact, it was the very last thing that I said to her. So this verse will stick with me forever, and hopefully after today, it will stick with you forever as well. Why would Paul say that? And if we as Mennonites, we as conservative people, I will tell you, as I was interviewed by the board of CMC, the panel of ministers to approve my ministry here, or to be a pastor here, or even just a preacher, I think, one of the main questions was about non-resistance. And for you kids, if you don't know what non-resistance is, maybe I should have one of you come up here and I should pop you upside the head. I won't do that. And see what your reaction would be. What would it be? No, I'm talking to you. You want to try it? No, you don't want to try it. But we're taught as Mennonites, if you get hit up, or as Christians in this culture, that if you get hit, you turn the other cheek. Harold, is that how we were taught down south? No. Somebody else's cheek was going to get slapped, and that's sort of how we were raised. So this has been a big debate in the past. It still is, of non-resistance. Non-resistance would mean that you turn the other cheek and just let it go. Hit the other side too. That's sort of how we're raised. And so to think of life as a good fight is not something that I don't believe, as conservative people, and I use that term sort of loosely maybe, but like, hey, what's up, bud? How's it doing? Where are you going? Got to run away. I'm not even going to touch it. You know what? He was mean to me before the service, so I'm not going there. Turn the other cheek, right? Awesome. But in our culture, we don't really know what a good fight is. Now, the other night, I was invited by a local kid who is doing MMA stuff, and I didn't go because I'm friends with him on Facebook, and it seems like since I'm friends with him on social media, every feed in Facebook, like there's these UFC, is that a thing? UFC fights, and it's something about it, and so I hate watching it. But I find myself looking at it because it's like bloody, it's gory, it's kind of, who watches that stuff? Oh yeah, of course you do. This is confession, Aaron. I was invited to go. I didn't go, but one of my buddies went, and I asked him how it was, and he said, oh man, my stomach turned. Like he got hit in the head, and there was blood flying everywhere, and he was like, I just couldn't. He said, I don't know if I'd go again. So that gave me my answer if I will ever go or not. Like, it's just not my thing, but I'm glad he does it, whatever, if that's what he wants to do. He's not here this morning, is he? I doubt it. He said he's showing up sometime, but hopefully not this morning. He'll come up here and show me how it's done. We don't know what good fight is. What did Paul mean by, I have fought the good fight? We're supposed to be non-resistant. It's not talking about physical fighting, is he? What is a good fight? Paul also writes in Ephesians chapter 6 that if we're going to do this good fight, then it's like this. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. For our struggle or our fight or our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. That's the fight that he's talking about. And that, as you know, is a huge fight. Unless you've got it all together. And I know I don't. I struggle with things. There's things in my life that I struggle with. And could you tell by the way Elena spoke this morning, there's things in her life that she struggles with. It's real. These things, everybody in here has something, has a story, has something they're going through, a valley, a dark place. Oh, we hit our mountains, but there's a dark place too. And the point of my message this morning is there is power in unity. There is power in unity. Now, this was strategically planned to be on January the 12th, because on that week was the first week that we had actually launched our impact groups. How many have been to an impact group meeting? Raise your hand. How many have enjoyed it immensely? Raise your hand. Well, that wasn't as many as went. I'll get the other tally later, okay? How many didn't enjoy? Don't raise your hands. But it's just what we want to talk about this morning. My point of my message is doing life together. How many felt the pain in Elena's testimony this morning? We traveled with her. We walked with her. She can maybe sometime expound on what she's going through right now with her boyfriend living in Guatemala and some of the difficulties that they're having with, green cards and things like that. That's painful for her because this is a person that she loves that she can't really get to and see. And so it's something that she's walking through. You wouldn't have known that looking at her. But she has that. And that's what she was ministering to us out of this morning. And so we all have that story. We all have that one thing or a couple things that are going on in our lives. And if we weren't together and doing life together, how would it be? I think of the fact that we can mourn with each other. We can celebrate life with each other. There's all sorts of things that we can do that tie us together in unity. And there's much more power living as a community than there is living life alone. While we were at Altman, there's a young man, and I'm not sure how hospital rules are, but there's a young man here that goes to church here, and he is a pharmacist up there at Altman. And on Monday, we were all, Becky's people were bringing in meals. We had literally had breakfast brought in, we had lunch brought in, we had dinner brought in. And so at lunchtime, we were all in the waiting room, and it was a pretty good crowd of people. And this individual comes walking in, and he's at work. You know, he's got the whole scrubby thing on, the scrubs, and he comes over and he's talking to me, and he said, "Wow, all these people for," he said, "Man, that's incredible." I said, "Yeah," and he said, "Well, I will have you know, Jimmy, that got a guy in ICU right now up on the 4th floor. He's been here for 7 days. We had a meeting this morning because we don't know what to do with him because not one single person has come to see him since he's here." Not one. Now, how would we handle that? And here in Celeste's room, we didn't have enough chairs. We were literally grabbing the nurses' swivel, those chairs that they were using out at their stations. We were bringing them in. We had just a room full of people, the support that was there. After she passed, when the calling hours were at Maranatha, I will tell you this, it was over 1,350 people came to the calling hours for my dear mother-in-law, for Becky's mom. And you guys showed up in huge numbers, and thank you so much. It meant the world to us. Family, church, unity, numbers, they mean the world. I can't imagine laying in a hospital bed for 7 days without anyone coming to see me. How would you live your life that way? And there's multiple stories like that. That's the world that we're living in, and we have an opportunity to show what church really does. People have asked what the point of having impact groups here. Why would we do it? And I will tell you, it's been on the radar long before I became pastor. It was on the radar probably what, Furman? A good 10 years, at least 10 years that this has been in the making. This is not something that Jimmy and Becky came up with. This is something that we feel is very vital to the continual growth of our church. And all of a sudden, and this is a good problem to have, but all of a sudden, it seems like I can't greet everyone every Sunday morning. And guess what? Some of you, don't be offended by that, don't even know your name. I probably heard it before, but I can't remember because I've got a good memory. It's just short, so you have to forgive me. I do know Elsie's name. Hi, Elsie. Welcome. Wave to everybody. She was my mentor for about, I don't know. It's good to have you here. Thank you for being here. My point is, we can't, as a leadership, even get our hands around everybody that's here. The numbers are increasing, and that's a good thing, but I will tell you, I don't want to go by the individual numbers of attendance. And if you look in the bulletin, it wasn't even in there, so it's not like we're weighing things. But my whole deal is, there's a reason that we need to be united. And it took me to Numbers chapter 1. Numbers chapter 1, I'm going to read the first 3 verses. And how many have ever studied Numbers? That's what I thought. Nobody. I didn't either. I have. But it's not a very entertaining book. You don't get a lot of awesome stories out of Numbers. But in Numbers chapter 1 and in Numbers chapter 28, those 2 chapters I want you to keep in mind. Numbers chapter 1, Numbers chapter 28. They do the very same thing. God tells Moses to take a census. Does anybody not know what a census is? I'll tell you what a census is. Becky and I got this huge package in mail, like a little envelope, and it had 45 minutes worth of my time to fill out. And it was the U.S. Census Bureau. And I thought, well, the first time I got it, I'm like, threw it in the trash. I'm not doing it. Then the second time, I'm like, I'm not sure what the repercussions are of not filling it out. I should have maybe called an attorney and asked, but I didn't. I thought, well, I'll just take the time and do it. It took me almost 45 minutes, and I'm not illiterate by any means. It was steady checking things off, and it's just kind of a pain. But why would they want to do that? They want to know where I live. They want to know how much money I make or don't make, and they want to know about my kids. They want to know everything. How many have those? Anybody else get them? Oh, they're just looking at, okay, just us 5. Okay. So they'll skip you guys. You'll get it. It was kind of a pain. And I thought, man, they're getting a lot of information from me, and for what? Well, they want to know what I'm capable of, what I'm not capable of. And that's why God asked Moses to take a census. He did it in Numbers chapter 1. He did it in Numbers chapter 28. And what you need to understand is between those 2 chapters was 38 years and 10 months. 38 years and 10 months between the first census and the second census. Here it is. Numbers chapter 1, verses 1 through 3. And here in this 3 verses lies the answer for which we have established impact groups here at Light in the Valley. The Lord spoke to Moses in the tent of meeting in the desert of Sinai. Now, the desert of Sinai is not a pretty place. It's one of the most desolate places on earth. The desert of Sinai is shaped like a triangle. At the very east side of that triangle to the west side of that triangle, it's 151 miles, I believe. So if me and Jesse, hi Jesse, if me and Jesse set out, and I don't know if y'all want to follow us or not, but if we were to take a journey for 151 miles, I guarantee you Jesse could make it in 11 days. I'd probably be at what, 12 or 13? I'm not that far behind you. But it took the children of Israel 40 years to travel that space. Me and Becky were there, and Becky was like, really, that's where we were? Yeah, that's where we were. They have two temperatures there. It's hot and hotter. Elsie, how hot was it? 113. I never did stretch it. Y'all thought I did. I've preached that before. It's 113. It melted my shorts. Well, I had to sit down to help Elsie. It was hot, and they have hot and hotter, and it took them 40 years. Me and Becky were there for 30 minutes, and we looked at each other and like, I said, I hate this place. And she goes, shut up. They were here for 40 years. You've been here 30 minutes. Stop complaining. But I want you to envision back. I had to think, Mel, back when I was a kid, your brother Eli lived in South Carolina, and we wanted to go on a family vacation. And so my dad decides he's going to go and borrow your brother's white Dodge van. Would you remember that? That was probably back in the early 80s. What year did Footloose come out? Can anybody help me? 84, that would have been the year. So I was, 10 years old, 8 years old. I remember it like yesterday. I can still smell the inside of that vinyl seated van. We get into this old Dodge van. It must have been, if it was an 84, it had to be a 1970 model. We were going from our place to Stone Mountain, Georgia. You put 6 spoiled, rotten kids and a mom and dad. 8 people were in that van, and we were headed to Stone Mountain, Georgia. It's about a 5-hour trip from home. I got to use the bathroom when my sister didn't. We wanted to eat here. They wanted to eat there. And there was this going on the whole way over and the whole way back. Now imagine, that was only a 10-hour trip, 5 hours over, 5 hours back. Imagine 40 years with 3 million people doing that. The whole time. I can't imagine. But anyway, God decided he wants to take a census. And here it is. It was in the desert of Sinai that happened. On the first day of the second month of the second year after the Israelites came out of Egypt. They had crossed the Red Sea. They had went for a little bit. And they weren't quite sure what was going on. And God said, you know what? I've got a lot of life is coming at you. And I'm going to have to know a certain number. Can anybody guess why he wanted that number? It's in here. He said to Moses, take a census of the whole Israelite community by their clans and families, listing every man by name. One by one. Becky, step out in the aisle. Damon, come out in the aisle. Chloe, you come over here. Please, come quickly. This is how I imagine. Oh, come on. We're family. Let's not act like we do at home. This is how I imagine God telling Moses to take the count. I don't think it was like Dave takes the count here in the morning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Y'all see him do that. This is how I think he did it. 1. Don't freak out. It's me. 2. 3. Oh, bud. 4. And there was Mason. Does that make sense? I don't think it was that quick count. I think it was God telling Moses, listen, y'all can sit down. Sorry. Unless y'all want to. I want you to take your time. I want to know each person's name one by one. How are you going to count 2 million people one by one? And what would be the reason? We can't even count 240 like that. It would take me all day to go, Cody, Bruce, oh no, Jack, right? See, y'all are messing me up. I don't know my names. It's important to God that we know that he knows their names. One by one. Very, very interesting. That's how he was told to do the census. And Moses was like, I can't do it all. So God said, you and Aaron are to count according to their divisions all the men in Israel who are 20 years old or more and able to serve in the army. See, if the children of Israel had lit out across that triangle of 151 miles in 11 days, they'd have showed up at the gates of a well-oiled machine as far as army goes, and they would have wiped them out completely, is my belief. And God said, I need you guys. There's going to be many, many battles that you're going to have to fight. And we got to get you ready for the biggest battle of all. And if you march up to the doors of that promised land without being ready to fight, they're going to wipe you out. You know why we're going through the seasons that we're going through in your personal life? Elena, you know why we're going through do you know why you're going through what you're going through? Because God's getting ready to do something special for Elena. I'm going through things. Me and Becky are going through things. There's no doubt in my mind that one day we will turn around and use it to glorify God. There's no doubt in my mind. We're going to win the war. We might not win every battle, but we're going to win the war. And we're going to do it together. There's power in numbers. What's interesting to me is out of all if you go on to read that, I'll let you read that rest of that on your time. There were 603,550 men that were ready for war out of those tribes. That was the first census. 38 years and 10 months later, he was called to do it again, and it had went to 601,730, a decrease of 3%. I just thought it was kind of interesting. We're going to fight. There's going to be battles. And do you want to go into those battles by yourself? Now I know the church family is strong maybe without small groups or impact groups, but I'm here to tell you there's going to be a power that develops and relationships that develop out of these groups that'll help us in ways we'll be closer to one another and we can fight with each other, not with each other, for each other, for those battles that are coming. There's a power in unity. There's a power in encouragement. You guys know that I've committed. Jesse, come on up here. You guys know that I've committed to this crazy man for a workout program, and got lights here. Can you see us? We'll do like that. I promised Jesse I would not make fun of him in any way or make him look bad. Got a mic here. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Jesse Mullet, if you don't know. So I thought it would be a powerful thing for him to tell us, you guys, a story that he told me. If you guys remember, what year was it that you biked across America?
2018.
2018. What made you want to do that? What possessed you to do that?
I'm an idiot.
I mean, they all know that.
It's something my dad and I had talked about years and years before this when I was just a little kid. That's where it all started for me.
And then, so Jesse, for you, those of you who don't know, Pure Gift of God is an adoption ministry that Kurt started here. Used Lighton Valley sort of as a platform, safe in saying that, I think. And we helped him launch that. And it's a ministry that helps foster parents or parents that want to adopt children. And so Jesse had in his mind that if he bikes from the West Coast, did you have your the rear bicycle tire in the water and where?
In Ocean Shores.
Ocean Shores, and where is that at?
Washington.
State of Washington. Back tire in the water at Ocean Shores, Washington, and you decided to get a sponsorship and bike across America in 30 days. Am I right?
Correct.
Did you make it?
I did.
What was the key? Where did your front wheel hit the East Coast?
That was in New Jersey.
In New Jersey. You came through here too, I remember. I was actually going to pace you from the park out here to Sugar Creek in a stationary bike on the back of a truck, but I thought that would be funny. But I didn't want to show you up because. So anyway, it was the thought that counts. Some of you guys tried to bike with him from Berlin to Sugar Creek. How did that work? You can talk about it later. Arlen, you okay? Where are you at, buddy? He's still blue. Here's what I want you to tell us. How did you make it across America in 30 days? What helped you get across America in 30 days?
Well, it was obviously a lot of prayers from you guys, and I think the key for me was a lot of preparation from Jason. Jason put the route together, and my wife took care of the kids through that whole 30-day trip. Jason did all the logistics. He did all the planning, the setup. That was the biggest thing for me is coming home to those people every night and knowing that they have everything ready for me the next day. And it was that support, 100%.
And so there were times that you were going up the mountains and the wind is in your face. And I know you were telling me earlier that it seemed to be very much on those times he would get a message or an email or a text from somebody here, back here, or one of his support teams says, you can do this. And it kept you going. So if we fast forward, we're going to fast forward now. And congratulations, by the way. That's a major accomplishment from my point of view. Now, we're going to go to a different place. It's called Lake Placid, New York. And who's laughing? Somebody laugh.
I was in Delaware when I almost drowned.
Oh.
Delaware, Ohio.
Really? I thought you were at Lake Placid.
That was Jason and Josh.
Okay, Jason and Josh did that one. Okay, so we're going to Delaware, Ohio. There's an Ironman there, right? And you thought it was a half. Oh, that's even worse. Story gets better. I could have done that.
I'm going to pay for this tomorrow.
I know. I'll probably oversleep. So tell us what a half Ironman looks like. Tell me what that takes.
So it's a 1.2 mile swim, it's a 56-mile bike ride, and then a half marathon at the end.
And that's all in one day?
As fast as you can go.
As fast as you can go. And so biking from the West Coast to the East Coast, that's a big deal. And so I would assume that doing this would seem like a breeze, especially the running part, since you've done how many marathons and biking. I mean, biking's sort of your thing, but the one thing that's not your thing is what?
I can't swim.
So this is a big deal. So one morning I was working out there and I was like, what would you do different if you did an Ironman again? Tell me what you'd do different.
Well, I'd train a lot more and get a coach to learn how to swim.
But there was one factor that you told me. There was about, how many were in that contest? Probably 1,000 or two people. And he told me if I would have been humble enough I'll let you finish it. I mean, so I'll say it if you can't say it. The strong ones are out front, and there's these little guys that are a little bit more prissy.
Thank you.
That's a good adjective for here. Well, we got to keep it church related. So they're a little bit more sissy. They wear wetsuits, and wetsuits are those tight things that they wear, and it helps with their buoyancy, and it also helps with their resistance in the water. But with 1,000 people splashing around Jesse as he gets out in the middle by himself, there was no way to overcome it. And what happened? You tell me.
So the last 50 people that start the race can wear wetsuits. And the pride in me from biking across the United States, being very confident with myself and thinking I'm a pretty big deal, I was like, I had a wetsuit in the truck. I was like, I don't need a wetsuit. I can power through this. I can set my mind to it. I can do this. I'm a pretty big deal. Well, I get into the water and the last 200 people or so, and without my wetsuit, and I go out and start swimming, and halfway through, I just, every 10 feet or so, I had to grab onto a kayak and like pick my head above the water because I thought I was going to drown. And so I kept swimming that way for the next hour and 20 minutes. I was supposed to be out of the water in 45 minutes or so. So in an hour and 20 minutes, I was still in the water, and I heard the call. I was about maybe 200 feet from the shore, almost back to where I could get on the bike and keep going. And I heard the call that, well, he's the last one in the water, we got to pull him out, he's out of time.
And had you stuck with the 50 sissies in the back, you would have completed your race.
I would have.
The power of sticking together. That's what I wanted to bring out. There's a power in encouragement. There's a power in having encouragement and sticking together. Did every one of those with wetsuits finish?
I think there were maybe 2 or 3 that didn't.
The power of banding together, whether it looks sissy or not. That's what spoke to me. Jesse, we're still proud of you. Maybe for Christmas I'll buy you swimming lessons. Would that be cool?
Whatever works for you. Just remember tomorrow morning.
Love you, man. Give Jesse a hand. Yeah, just leave it on. Those are things that I learned. We do work out, believe me. But I did learn some of those things just by communicating with him. And it was interesting to me that had he stuck to the plan of community, he wouldn't have won the race, but he'd have finished. And that's the big deal. When we put 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race, and I have kept the faith. We can do it together. We're going to do it together. And it's going to take all of us. That's why we put small groups together. That's why we put our impact groups together, so that we can lean on each other, we can learn from each other, and we can live life together. Becky, will you come up? We've got I'm going to have to put her on a time limit. We've got about 7 minutes. Becky wants to tell you a little bit about her story. Go ahead. You don't want, oh, you don't? Well, that's odd. That's awkward.
Just because Jimmy loves to hear himself in the mic, he thinks everybody else does too.
If you're going to handle it this way, I'm going to go in the back.
It's my turn.
Go ahead.
No, I just want to take this time in thanking everyone for everything you guys did for me and Jimmy through the time of my mom's passing.
Yeah.
There was, things people did text. I'm not even going to name everything because I'm going to miss something. But I had to think, somebody gave me a quart of soup. And I had to think, would I give somebody a quart of soup? I would think it's not going to be enough to feed the whole family, or I would, things would come into my mind that, it's not enough, or I don't know if I should. That quart of soup was so incredible. I didn't have time to go get groceries or pack lunches, and Chloe had soup in her lunch for, it's something I could throw in lunches, or it meant the world to me. I had people just everybody's own creativity, what they did for me meant the world to me. And everything together, if everybody did one thing, it was huge. It was huge at a time like that. And it was just overwhelming, to see everybody and all the people that came to the viewing. If you didn't have anything to say, just to be there, show support, and it just made you feel you know what, we can do this. And just everybody helping us and everybody being there for us is why we do what we do.
That's why we can pull through it. And, death has its sting. This is the first time that it's hit this close for Becky and I said, you know, what if we would not have the church family to lean on? What if we wouldn't have that unity and that community here? And so thank you so much. All of your prayers, all of the texts, all of those, the flowers. My heavens, we had enough flowers that we couldn't get them all in our car, so we ended up giving them away and to some of her aunts and things. And so thank you. You guys went above and beyond of what anyone could expect going through a loss like that. Thank you so much. It's the power of unity. It was incredible. And my prayer, and Becky's prayer too, is that we can all fight the good fight, finish the race, and keep our faith. Would you guys stand with us? This is what I want you to do. This might be a little odd, especially for the young ones up here. I want the middle aisle to disappear as we walk towards each other, and everyone hold hands in a line like this. Yeah. Ah, look at that. That is beautiful. Robert, you need a picture of this from up here. Would you guys bow your heads with me? Father God, I thank you for this community that you've built here at Light in the Valley. I thank you for the opportunity to minister here, and I thank you for the opportunity to be friends and to be more than friends, be family with these people. I thank you that we get to live life together. I thank you that we can mourn together, and I thank you that we can celebrate things together. And as you draw us closer, I ask that you continue to push us in the directions, help us to find the waves that you want us to ride, not create our own, but to find those waves, ride them till the end, and to you be all the honor and glory. I thank you for each individual that's here this morning, and I bless them in the name of Jesus. I pray this all in your name. And the church said, amen.